Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to our daily movie review series. I'm Shaun from Zoobox, and today we're going to be talking about King Kong from 2005. The film was directed by Peter Jackson, written by Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, Peter Jackson, and others. It stars Naomi Watts, Jack Black, Adrian Brody, Thomas Kretschmann, Colin Hanks, Andy Serkis, Evan Park, Jamie Bell, Lobo Chan, John Sumner, and others. The plot synopsis is a greedy film producer assembles a team of movie makers and sets out for the infamous Skull Island, where they find more than just cannibalistic natives. So, yeah, Peter Jackson's remake of King Kong 1933. If you watched yesterday, we talked about the 1933 version. And when I watched that, I was like, hey, I got this on the shelf. Let's pull it out. Let's do it. My kid's into King Kong. This might be fun. He might like this. This is a lot of big set pieces. It had been a long time since I'd watched the movie. When it first came out, I was pretty into it. I was kind of a big Peter Jackson fan. I really, I just like everybody, I fell in love with Lord of the Rings. I was super into Lord of the Rings, just like everybody. But I had been a fan of his from before that, because when I was a kid, The Frighteners, the movie with Michael J. Fox, about the paranormal ghost hunting kind of movie. It's like a horror thriller / comedy. I used to love that movie. It was totally up my alley. And then I had kind of gone out and sought his other movies. He made a movie called Heavenly Creatures, which is based on a true story about these two girls from New Zealand that commit some murders. It's kind of like a fantasy, romance, thriller, horror movie. It's really great. It's really great. And I saw Dead Alive, Meet the Feebles, Bad Taste. I was in it. I was into Peter Jackson stuff. So just even beyond Lord of the Rings, I was anticipating King Kong. This was his follow-up to his Lord of the Rings movies, and so we're just obviously super interested. What is he going to do after Lord of the Rings? I saw this movie 3 times in the theater. That's a lot, for a 3-hour, 7-minute movie. That's 9 hours of my life. I saw it twice on my own accord, and then once because a friend was felt awkward going to the movie with some girl. And he's like, dude, can you tag along, please? I was like, okay, fine. And I really liked it. And I caught a lot of shit for liking it. Because I was just like, I really, all the characters and, it takes the time to kind of build the story and set it in. It's kind of crazy because if King Kong came out today, it would be 4 hours long and it would be a Netflix show or it would be an HBO series. Because that's when you're watching it. It honestly feels like you could split this into 3 episodes and it would probably almost work better. Watching this as a 3-hour experience is kind of exhausting. I'm coming back to it years later. I have very mixed feelings about this movie. I can tell Peter Jackson absolutely loves and respects the 1933 version of King Kong. It's totally apparent. It's all over this thing. He is trying to be as faithful as possible, except he just does what Peter Jackson does, at least nowadays, and he just wants to blow it all up. Every element of the 1933 version is in here, except it's bigger, and it's longer, and it's more expanded, and it goes deeper with everything, in ways that don't feel very necessary, I'll be honest with you. You could cut a hot hour out of this movie, and you'd probably have a really great adventure movie, a really great remake of King Kong. I don't know how you would get around some of it because, there's an aspect of the original film where you could tell Kong himself has an affinity for Ann Darrow. Now, Naomi Watts plays her in this. Fay Wray plays her in the original. And that's, it's hinted at. It's there. That's why he's obsessed with her. That's why he doesn't try to kill her. He's not trying to bite her head off. He's not angry at her. But he wants her. He wants to possess her, basically. And this one, it kind of takes that, and it just takes it farther. It's like they have a friendship. They have a kind of a spiritual connection to a certain extent. And it spends a lot of time delving into that. So that would be kind of hard to cut around that stuff, because just in the way they built this movie. Because in a vacuum, all of the scenes work. Everything works fine. It's just that it becomes tedious at some point. It becomes exhausting. I mean, it is set piece after set piece. Once It takes about an hour to get to the island. It does tons of setup, tons of character development, which, back when I was a kid, I actually really appreciated that. I really liked that. And I'd say even today, if this was a TV show, that would make sense if it was an episode. If it was the first episode of a TV show, introducing all the characters, introducing the world. Because Jackson's able to really kind of gorgeously recreate it and take this idea, this notion of kind of these producers and these filmmakers, these ambitious artists of the time, these kind of pioneers of the craft, of the art form, trying to do something, trying to do something big. That's even the premise of the original movie. Everybody that was involved in making it was kind of almost like fantasy casting, like a scenario they wish they could actually do. And so it's interesting. I do think there's some miscasting. I think Jack Black he did not, at least at the time, doesn't really have the acting chops, because they can't decide whether or not they want their cast to be naturalistic or if they want them to act like 1933 actors. And it doesn't seem like all the actors are really on the same page, because you have Naomi Watts kind of giving this classic 1933 era, like Fay Wray type performance. Jack Black is kind of doing that, but then you have everybody else isn't really doing that. So it's kind of weird. It creates a dissonance. Like there's just like a tonal problem there. But as it goes on, though, you kind of you can let that go. It kind of washes away. But you just start becoming aware, especially because I watched this right after I watched the 1933 version. That it's just like it is the same movie essentially. It's just everything is just dragged the fuck out. And it stops being fun. Yeah, I was kind of having a hard time. The movies just started to lose me because, while it's interesting to look at like giant spectacle and CGI stuff, it is just a little mind-numbing at some point. There are set pieces that just do not really need to be in this movie. Or if they are, they need to be truncated. And I didn't even watch the extended cut. There's an extended cut of this movie, which is on here, which is 12 minutes longer, and all it does is add like 2 more set pieces. It's like a famous sequence that was kind of like cut, I think, from the original movie, or that the footage was lost or was never actually finished filming. And then there's another one, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's just they just cut 2 set pieces out, essentially, from the theatrical version. It's like, man, you could have cut out some more. I would like to see like them do like an Oliver Stone thing where he does like 5 different cuts of Alexander. Do you remember the Oliver Stone film Alexander? There's 4 different cuts of that movie. He just keeps cutting it. I'm waiting for the 5th one. I think I own the longest one. It's the Alexander Revisited, which is like, I want to say is the longest one. I think it is. Actually, I should do that on the channel one of these days. Watch Alexander again. It's been a long ass time since I've watched Alexander. I know that movie's mediocre, but I'd still like to watch it again. Why not? For posterity. But anyways, King Kong. I can't say that you're like I hate the movie or that it's not fun or it doesn't work totally. It does. I think Jackson executes on what he sets out to execute on. But the problem is he's just so indulgent. And I feel like this had to be a direct result of working on Lord of the Rings. I mean, he worked on those for so long, and there's theatrical cuts and the extended cuts, and it's not like in the same way where the length of the Lord of the Rings movies actually is a boon to the story, because it's just that kind of story. This is supposed to be more of a fun adventure movie. These characters, even when you try to give them an internal life that is deeper, it doesn't really fucking matter. They're really not that interesting. They're not. I think if there was something that you would add to the story and keep in, would be the relationship between Anne and Kong. Like kind of the deepening of that relationship. Add a little pathos to it, I understand that. I got that part of it. And while I don't like, because when I was talking about earlier, if you cut that out, it'd be hard to cut around that stuff. I guess maybe you would keep that and you would cut out some of the stuff with the guys kind of traversing through the jungle, trying to find Kong and save Anne. Because that stuff just feels kind of redundant. It just feels repetitive at some point, and it just stops being interesting. And also, some of the scenes, I would say the CGI really does not hold up very well. This actually just came out in 4K recently, and it's not even that expensive. I think I saw it for like 10 or $12 one day. And I was like, why would you buy this on 4K? Because they didn't render those special effects in 4K. Like, that movie is probably going to look really weird on 4K because you're going to have all your principal photography, all your actors and stuff are going to be in crisp 4K definition, UHD, and then all the background stuff's probably going to look muddy and blurry. Like, Kong is going to look weird. Weirder than he already does look. You know? And also, I would say the CGI nature of everything, while I understand why it is that way, it's 2005, it does kind of take away some of the charm of the original. There is something, like I said in that review, there's something tactile about that. Like, there's something kind of rough around the edges that is like you respect it. And there's just this kind of almost uncanny valley thing with the creatures in this. Like, I'm not going to say it's bad. I mean, especially at the time. I mean, it was cutting edge. And, it's mo-capped. Andy Serkis pulls double duty. He plays the ship's cook, and he also plays Kong. So he gives a motion capture performance just like he did Gollum in Lord of the Rings. And he's definitely kind of bringing a deeper sense of more fuller life to it, and kind of the movements and the face acting and whatnot. But it does feel less special. It feels just less impactful because it looks really good sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. Other times it just looks really messy. It looks like, special computer-generated effects from 2005. But, like I said, I don't think I hate the movie. I know I don't hate it. I don't even know how to feel about it. Like, I just feel so mixed about it. Because I should have kind of nostalgia for this. Well, how old was I? I was 19 when this came out. And at the time, like, I really liked it. I was really into it. And I think most people like this movie. I think people think fondly back on it. But I just don't know why they went with the epic thing, like trying to make this big epic movie other than just for the sake of doing it. Like, I don't think it serves the story very well. I don't think it serves kind of even the message or the characters all that well. It just kind of, like I said, it just feels tedious at some point. And you just kind of start checking out. Which is weird because I think scene by scene, a lot of it does work. It's just there's so much of it. It's just so much of it. You just get tired. That's my review. King Kong 2005 will make you tired. But if you haven't seen it in a long time, and you're really bored, you got 3 hours to kill. Maybe you're sick or it's a rainy day or something. Suppose you could do worse. You could do worse than King Kong '05. I'd say go watch the original, honestly. I think the original, it's ostensibly the same movie. It's just the better version of it. Which is no surprise, I suppose. It's better than the 76 version, if memory serves me correctly. That one was a little, lame and boring. I remember it being on TV when I was a kid. I was like, oh, King Kong. Not really knowing what it was, and just watching it, just being bored to fucking tears. And even Skull Island, I'm not a huge Skull Island fan. I think Skull Island looks amazing. I like that I think that director is a talented visualist, but he's not a great storyteller. Not a great storyteller. And then just I don't know what it is. Just watching CGI things fight each other, just cartoons fight each other, is just not that exciting anymore. I don't know. It's kind of like we got to go back. We went too far. Now it's time to start taking steps back, which, in fairness, people are doing. People are starting to do that. They are starting to kind of scale it back. Even though I didn't like them very much, there's the newer Star Wars movies, I think, actually strike a pretty good balance between CGI and practical effects. So next time they do a King Kong movie, I want to see a fucker in a suit, or maybe some stop motion animation. Why not? Let's do that. Let's do it. Let's just go all the way back to 1933. If it was good enough for them, it's good enough for me. You understand? All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, you want to keep up to date with everything in Zoobox Nation, There's a bunch of links in the description for Facebook, for Instagram, for my personal Twitter. Also, Dan's Twitter is on there as well. If you'd like to make a recommendation for one of these daily videos, or maybe something for the big show, Zoobox Goes to the Movies, throw it in the comments, and it will be considered. I'll put it on the list. I can assure you that it most likely will make it to a daily video. Maybe not Goes to the Movies, because that one takes a lot more time, prep. Got to get somebody else to do it with me. But, yeah, there you go. That's the spiel, everybody. All right, you have a great one. Goodbye.